Hello everyone, I am Striker, and today I'm going to be going over the GSC, aka the Starbase Tank Farm, and how to load Super Heavy and Ship in Starbase Simulator. And of course, credit goes to Ash Torek for making this game, and Chameleon Circuit for providing the models for Super Heavy and Ship. So, without further ado, let's get started. I did not touch base on this earlier, but I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a deep dive into the ground support equipment in this episode. And one of the first things I'm going to cover is the Starship Deluge for the Flame Deflector at Pad 1. Of course, these 3 big tanks and 4 smaller tanks provide the water needed to go through the booster bidet system, as CSI Starbase calls it. Shout out to him. And of course, these are the high pressure gases that make the water flow through the pipes here at extremely high speeds. And of course, at the T-minus 10-minute mark, water will begin flowing through the flame deflector system. This pressurization system will go through at the top here, I believe, to then fill the entire, to fill up the tanks with gas. And that gas, of course, pushes the water down through the bottom of the tanks here, and which goes through, of course, this manifold here. And then this manifold goes through these pipes. And of course, sometimes you see in, of course, static fires of boosters and also during flights as well, you see a little bit of sprouts of water coming out. I believe that's for a pressurization thing. I will do a little bit more research on it a bit later during editing. And of course, this water will pass through this piping, go underneath the ground here, and of course, those pipes will meet at several manifolds underneath the pad here, and of course, at around the 4 to 3 second mark, the water shoots out at extremely high speeds, and you get this. And of course, this protects the pad a little bit more than what it did during Flight 1, of course. And this was, of course, a makeshift D&D project flame deflector system that they used for this. But of course, Pad 2 has immense amount of upgrades, and which also provides a flame trench with a more susceptible water deluge system. Now that the tank farm for the deluge at Pad 1 is already out of the way, I'll now be going over the Pad 1's subcooler system. Of course, we call these, of course, the hippos. This, of course, is fully engulfed in liquid nitrogen, and there is a sort of S curve in the piping inside the subcooler, which of course the liquid oxygen in this case flows through, and which and when the nitrogen boils off, it is dumped over to the side here. And this is for the methane side. Of course, we have the pumps here, four of them exactly. I believe they use 2 subcoolers for the booster, and then 2 for ship. And then I'm not entirely too sure. Someone can correct me in the comments if you want. But anyways, here is some of the methane storage right over here. And this has mainly the reason why they had these hot dog tanks to begin with was because I don't think I really need to explain why, but for any of you newer Starship fans, the reason why they have these horizontal ones and not the vertical ones, let's say that a certain federal agency said no. So, yeah, and this is why we have the methane tanks like this. And that's pretty much how we have horizontal tanks here. Anyways, and also because the GSE, GSE vertical tanks got severe damage during the past first three or four Starship flights. There was severe damage to those vertical tanks, and us tank watchers already know that pretty well. But yeah, this is part of the methane side. So for the nitrogen side, the horizontal tanks over here supply the nitrogen, which goes inside the subcoolers here, which bathes the liquid methane and the liquid oxygen, of course, into and turns that into a sub-chilled state, so that then the propellants could go from there towards the bunker, and then from the bunker to the OLM and connects to booster, and also so that those propellants can then go up to the tower, up it, and so that it can connect to the QD arm and fill up ship. And now for the water side, I believe these are water tanks, and then these are also methane tanks, but anyways, so these here are the water tanks, and right over here are the vaporizers. Fuck, what are these? They're vaporizers. But yeah, that is how the little bit of my sort of kind of dive into the GSC so far for now. Once I learn a little bit more of it, I might go back on this a little bit, maybe edit the video, but probably not. And I'll do probably more deep dive in it later. Of course, if you want to know a little bit more on Starship and like a bunch of deep diving on how stuff works there, I would recommend you subscribe to Zach Golden, or also known as CSI Starbase, on YouTube. I will put his channel in the link in the description below so that you can check him out. He goes into really good details on a whole lot of stuff with Starship. So yeah. So without further ado, we will now begin the process on how to fill up booster and ship. When is this person gonna talk? Like, so, first thing you're gonna do, if you haven't done so already, right click, and of course this brings up all the menu stuff. You click on the tank farm. What I usually do, because sometimes the tanks are not, the GSE is not really topped off, I kind of just fill it up to the max by just clicking on these. This refills the GSE. Of course, I set it to this because I don't want to wait so long for that. And the first thing you want to do is click on the lock side for auto. This automatically fills the subcoolers on the lock side. And of course, you can see that now nitrogen is flowing through the system. And as you can see, the nitrogen is filling up on the subcoolers. So right now, I'm now turning on the cryo pumps for the lock side of the tank farm. Oh, wait. You guys can't even hear it. Hold on. You're stupid. But yeah, that's the sound of the cryo pumps going. And of course, we are now filled and ready to go for prop load on booster. What I like to do is just put it at 5-10%. But yeah, and then you click on booster locks valve, and there we go. We have locks flowing through and going to booster. As you see here, the ice is starting to form as there's more locks being filled on booster. And for the methane side here, Make sure you kind of close it a little bit more than 25%. Don't put it, again, at 0, because that will burst the subcooler. But I'm going to turn on automatic control for that. Once it usually gets to 4 bars or so, I usually tend to open it up when it's filling like this. And yep, we are now filled on the methane side for the subcoolers. I'm going to turn on the pumps for that. And now, activate the valve, open the valve for the methane, and now we're flowing methane through. For this, I like to keep it at 88%. And of course, over time, as the pressure is increasing inside of the booster, you're going to want to increase the power on the methane pumps and of course on the LOX pumps as well. You're going to want to keep maintaining that a good positive pressure so that your propellants can flow into the booster and properly. And if you don't do it properly, you can have backflow from the LOX side and also have methane completely freezing inside the lines. So right now I'm going to basically skip over a little bit until we get to ship load. So we'll be back in a moment. Alright, as you can tell, we are almost filled to the brim for prop on booster. And there we go, we have LOX load complete on booster. I'm going to turn off the pumps, set them up to that. Oh, and we just have the methane load complete as well. So I'm closing the valves for that. Make sure you keep an eye on that pressure, make sure it doesn't go up to a certain point. And to load ship, I'm putting the pumps at 40% so that it can actually load ship, because of course the effort to get the pumps to load LOX and methane on ship is a bit more difficult as it's more higher up from the said tanks. So now here we go. I'm going to begin LOX loading. And since LOX is loading on here, I'm going to begin engine chill on ship because I can. If you want to change the procedure however you want, go ahead. But this is usually how I do it. And now that LOX is loading, I'm going to wait a little bit because methane loading on ship is a lot quicker. And I want to get a bunch more LOX onto ship.
Until I found out there were other ways to score.
Alright, that seems like it's good enough. So now I'm going to initiate flow of
methane.
LOX. Ooh, I almost kind of went a little overkill there on that. Oh boy. I almost could have burst the subcoolers. Oh boy. As you can see now, we're now loading both propellants on ship. Here I like to open the valves on the methane side about to 68% and not 88% for booster. Now that fuel loading is complete on ship, I'm going to now deactivate everything and safe the methane side of the tank farm. Basically what I do for this safing procedure is just completely open up the valve so that all the methane can drain. There's no way to backflow that said nitrogen back into the tanks. I'm pretty sure there will be an update for that soon. Yep, as you see, we are currently still loading locks, as of course this takes a lot more time. We're almost filled to the brim, and now I'm going to begin engine chill on booster. And there we go. We are now fully filled with locks on ship. So now I'm going to close out the lock side of the tank farm. And yeah, we are go for launch. But before that, I want to teach you guys a little something. If you guys don't want to use the tank farm at all whatsoever, and you just kind of want to just watch it, there's a propellant set monitor that you could just type in any set amount into the system here. And when I click enter, of course, it fills the ship with all the propellant that it needs, and also set it for booster as well. And now, you're now fully filled with propellant on booster and ship. I hope this tutorial wasn't that difficult for you to understand. If you want any more help on how to operate stuff on the tank farm, please let me know in the comments below. Or you can also go to my older video, which is basically going a little bit more into detail on the mechanics, I think, for this. But thank you guys so much for watching again. Big shout out to Ash Torek, who is the creator of Starbase Simulator, and also to Chameleon Circuit for putting in the models for booster and ship. Massive credits to all the Starbase people out there, Starship Gazer, RGV, NASA Spaceflight, all of them. Without their constant viewings and coverage, we wouldn't even have any of this. We wouldn't even have a Starbase Simulator game. But yeah, big props to those guys. And thank you so much for watching. Cheers. Hey guys, this is me, Striker, again. This is me after editing this video. Took a few days because I actually put effort into this. So, again, if you guys like this, kind of make sure you guys like the video and subscribe. Anyways, have a good rest of your day. Take care.